I always go back to the data. So when you're a former appraiser, you know that you're not supposed to walk into any kind of valuation with any preconceived notion of value. You're supposed to deal with, these are the comps. It is what it is, right? There may be some stuff that we can tweak on either side, but you really need to go in without a preconceived notion. And that's the hardest thing for a realtor to do.
Hey everybody, it's Matt Fowler again, Executive Director of Doorify MLS in Cary, North Carolina. And we're here with another one of our podcasts to introduce you to some cool new tech that is coming to the My Doorify dashboard. We have a special guest with us today, Tom Cunningham. Hey, Tom.
Hey, good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're really glad you're here. And we're really excited that you're going to be talking about one of your favorite topics is CMAsnap project.
Yeah.
We have a new philosophy at Triangle that you made me laugh, really, Tom. Our mutual friend, Tim Dane, introduced us. Tim's the CEO up at North Star. I think you're from Austin. You've got the product up and running in a few MLSs, but a lot of MLSs that you approach say, we already got one.
Right.
Like the French guy in the Monty Python movie. That's such a silly answer, you know?
Yeah.
So we don't believe in that. We do have 5, maybe. I don't know how many CMAs there are. RPR, each one of the MLS platforms, have their own. There's one in HomeSpotter that our subscribers have access to. But we believe in choice and variability in both pricing and functionality. I'm a recovering real estate appraiser, as I share with people, and I shouldn't be the chooser of what you want to use in your practice.
Yeah.
So what we did is Tim introduced us to Tom here, and Tom showed us this really cool product. And I am a recovering appraiser. I know a little bit about valuation. And it's pretty neat. We had our appraisal council review it. They had some comments about realtors making adjustments and stuff that we'll just leave for another podcast. But they liked it. I can see some of them thinking kind of the same way that you're making those adjustments. We had a deep dive conversation about it. But a deep enough conversation that I'm confident that this is certainly a viable, useful tool. That's the bar. That's all we have to do to get past me. Now, what I want you to do is to tell our 15,000 subscribers, thousands of them do watch this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Why CMAsnap? Right, you got all these. What do you guys do? Where'd you come from? What's special about CMAsnap?
So, thanks again for having me. I could give you the long version, but the short version is I was trying to build another app. I used to do broker price opinions, and I was a broker price opinion resource for half a dozen appraisal management companies. And I approached things from an analytical standpoint. When you do a broker price opinion, it's like an express appraisal. And so there's a whole lot of deep dive analytics that you take into consideration, and you have to make adjustments, and you have to judge the overall market, and you need to do a rental analysis and all that. I used to do those things when the market was really bad here in Austin, just trying to make an extra few bucks. But in a previous life, I was a structured finance guy, and I used to crunch data, and I felt like the whole BPO process, it just took too long. It was a couple hour process, and I was like, well, we should be able to automate most of this. And so I originally was building an API for appraisal management companies, so that they could go to their broker price opinion guys and say, hey, you can make your $60 in 2 hours, or you can make it in 25 minutes. Mm-hmm. So that was my first hurdle. And as I got closer, I was up in Seattle visiting a friend of mine, and he worked for Microsoft, and I was telling him, yeah, man, I got 2.5 hours down to 25 minutes. And he's like, 25 minutes? I want 20 seconds, man. What 25 minutes? You're a dinosaur, dude. So that took me another year, right? So I started working on that. And then as the market started turning around, I had built this thing with a developer friend of mine, and we had it on a development server. And so as the market started turning around, I was out with my chiropractor and his very pregnant wife in the middle of the summer in Austin. And we looked at 15 houses in one day because both of us were too scared to tell her to narrow it down to 4 or 5, right? So at the end of it, we'd spent 10 hours in the car together. And at the end of it, they said, well, we really like number 7. What do you think we should offer? And I started to say, let me go back to the office and pull the comps, and I'll call you in an hour or so, and we'll come up with something. But I really didn't want to drive all the way back to my office, like 45 minutes across town from my office. And just on a whim, I pulled out my phone and I logged into my development server, and I pulled up the BPO app that Barry and I had been building, and I pulled some comps, and we went into Seattle's Best Coffee, and we wrote a contract, and they bought a house, and I made $15,000. in commission. That day it switched to a CMA app, right?
That's a great story, Tom. It reminds me of a question I wanted to ask you if you're done with that a thought. I want you to like share your screen and maybe show people a little bit of CMAsnap. But I thought just for my customers' sake, I'm always poking fun at them because I was an appraiser. So if you're gonna to encourage people to use CMAsnap, and these were realtors we're talking to, what can you put in a number that you want to make in commission and have the CMA program tell you what you need to price the property for?
Yeah, that's not really what we do, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, the number is going to like bake out, what I'm saying.
I get that. I get the concept. I really do.
It's a tough world out there right now, Tom. So when somebody has this on their laptop, as you did in Seattle's Coffee, but in this case, they're going into maybe a showing a listing presentation. Mm-hmm. Let's approach it from that perspective real quick. And sure. Let's say that you've got, 123 Jones Street, your kitchen tables. Hey, Tom, what do you think we should price our house at?
Yeah. So I always go back to the data, right? I mean, you're supposed to, when you're a former appraiser, you know that you're not supposed to walk into any kind of valuation with any preconceived notion of value.
Sure.
You're supposed to deal with these are the comps, right?
What's the comp set?
It is what it is, right? There may be some stuff that we can tweak on either side, but you really need to go in without a preconceived notion. And that's the hardest thing for a realtor to do, right? Because early on, I'll be perfectly candid with you about the limitations of the app. Early on, I went to a listing presentation and the guy walks out. I mean, I pulled up in the driveway and the guy is walking out his front door and the first words out of his mouth were not hello. It was, I want 600. And I went, well, sure. let's go see. Right.
Well, sellers have expectations. I think we all know that.
I couldn't come up with 600 to save the life of me. I was like, I love this thing at 585. And I turned down the listing and he gave it to somebody else. And that somebody else listed at 605 or something, and it sat there for 3 weeks, and then they hit like 590. Yeah. And I turned down a listing over $15,000 difference, and she didn't, and she made the money. And I was like, okay, you still have to be a realtor. You still have to know how to negotiate, and you still have to talk about, variables. So
maybe open your laptop and let's see what you would show the seller.
Yeah. All right. Sure. Let me
metaphorically open your laptop.
Metaphorically speaking. All right. So I actually let's see here. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep. Lots of houses.
Okay. So this is the dashboard. This is what, once you start doing reports, you're going to fill this up pretty quickly. I went to realtor.com this morning and I pulled up recent price reductions in the triangle area. Address on the first one on there was 1613 Beacon Valley, 1613 Beacon Valley. So this is sort of just to give you an idea of how fast, the app runs. You just pull up the address from a drop down. It's going to come up with there's the listing. Okay. If it's never been listed in the MLS, you can start from a tax record, but we have this report right here ready to go. So this is a property form. Make sure nobody's added a pool or anything crazy like that. Hold on. Can you still see my app?
Yes, it's zoomed in.
So we're going to put in 1613 Beacon Valley. All right. So we're going to pull that from the drop down. All right. And then we're going to click on the MLS listing. You can start from a tax record if it's never been listed. And this is the property form that you get just to make sure that nobody's added, square footage or a pool or something like that. So once we hit submit, what's going to happen is the app's going to go out. It's going to be looking for 3 and 3 solds and 3 actives or pendings. We start out looking for 20% of the square footage are built within 5 years. And then we run a bunch of algorithms and then we zero in on the comps that the system likes the best. And then we deliver it in, this is the first place you start, right? So if I'm actually talking to somebody that I've never talked to before and they ask me, what about the market and this and that, the first place I go is to the snapshot, right? So I could say, listen, we're looking out 3 miles. In the last 5 months, there have been 37 properties sold. There's 7 pendings and there's 13 actives. I'd love to see where these are the prices that they sold at. I'd love to see where your house fits into the market. Why don't we go by and take a look tomorrow afternoon, right? But what we try to do is we try to give you instant feedback on the combination of comps that you select or the system selects, right? So So the system, we did pretty good in this one, right? And you can look at all these comps and you can tell that they're all, pretty solid. They all look pretty much the same. So I'm pretty happy with these comps. But if I wasn't, I could go into the comps page and I could go, okay, well, let's see. So for whatever reason, there's another comp over here. I see actually something. This is interesting. So the subject property right here is facing a greenbelt looking thing. I might want to make an adjustment on one of these comps that's not on the greenbelt. And the way that I would do that is I would go in here and I would go to this and I would add an adjustment. These are the adjustments that the system made automatically, right? And so I could go down here and I could go, superior view, waterfront golf course, view adjustment. Bam, there you go. There's a view adjustment. So I'm going to add 12 grand for the view on that one. I'm going to follow up and do it on all of these. And so now I'm going to end up having a fully adjusted CMA. And listen, you're an appraiser. You know how it goes. What the last thing that you want to do when you are creating an appraisal package for an appraiser for your listing is send them, just hand them a stack of MLS sheets, right? That's not what they want.
Yeah, I was always taught that you let the data tell you the range of value,
right?
And then you choose 3 to 6 examples from the market,
right?
Lower and a higher to bracket your recommended products.
Right.
So comp selection is about storytelling
sure.
around to illustrate the bracket that you selected, and then in the middle of that bracket, maybe there's a point number.
So here, speaking of brackets, here's a bracket on square footage, right? So the subject property is 1,400 square feet. So we got 2 smaller and 1 bigger. We follow along appraisal methodology based on the principal contribution, right?
Yeah,
the principal contribution means that it says that every property is built of several components, and each of those components together comprise the overall value of the house. But the cost of those components doesn't necessarily equal the value. And so that's the way that we built our adjustment algorithm, and that's what we bank on. But listen, if you walk out into somebody's backyard, all right, and you see a swimming pool that looks like Splashtown USA, and I'm giving you 20 grand for the pool, you can change that.
So you've got individual adjustments that you can make. I saw that there were automated adjustments that were made based on the
series of automated. And then if there's something else that you need to adjust for, we have a whole battery of things that are pre-programmed, right?
Yeah, that's really intricate, Tom, but it helps you fill that out. So it gives you the granularity, but it also has the intelligence built into it. When you get done with that, I guess you're going to finish comp selection, looking at the time, and then you're going to produce a report in some way.
So this is
print those and then share them.
Well, this is the way that the report looks. When you share it via link, okay, it looks like this, and this is all interactive, and it's a beautiful thing. And if you haven't seen somebody's house before, you can turn off the sales price, where when you send it to them via text or email or whatever, you might want to hold your cards back, right? And so we give you a lot of options to be able to do that. And let me just see if I can actually pull this off, but I'm going to try to show you what it looks like on a phone.
Fancy.
Okay, so now do you see a phone screen?
See the choice? Yeah, then the screen. Yeah, there you go. So that's a responsive view of that report.
This is going to be in a second here. Hold on. So this is a responsive view of that report. All right, so this is what the client sees, right? So when you text it to them, they're going to open it up, and they're going to be able to follow along, look at all the comps. They'll be able to see all the pictures. Man, it's running a little bit slow right now, but all the pictures will populate, and so they can really follow along with you, and they can go through, and you can talk to them about, here's comp number 1, and we're making an adjustment for square footage. Comp number 1's a little bit smaller by a few hundred square feet, so we're going to make an adjustment down here, square footage adjustment down here, right? And you can follow along with the client, and when they see this, it's easier for them to understand. I mean, it kind of looks like a mini appraisal. Actually, kind of looks a little bit better if you turn the screen sideways. You have a little bit more room, right?
Well, that's like, subject on the left and 3 comps, like the URAR format. I think that's people are used to doing that.
Yeah, and so if we make it super easy to change the comps, so I'm going to see if I can pull this off on the phone here. Let's say that I don't like Beacon Village, right? I don't like this one. I do like Montauk Way, right? So it's as easy as taking that one out and putting that one in instead. And now I have a different series of comps, right? And so when I share it, they're going to see all that. And if I turn off the sales price, then this is what they're going to see, right? And what our experience has been is,
or they get a new link.
No, that's the same one they're looking at. It's dynamic. So whatever state you leave it in is what they're going to see, right? So if you leave the prices turned off, then the prices are going to be turned off, and that's that, And so, the idea there is that we want to give you as much flexibility to share it in the way that you want to share it, and and give you a beautiful experience
value when you're ready.
Yeah, and reveal the value when you're ready. So, it's proven that people that send out 25, 30 of these things a month when they're prospecting, if they block out the price, invariably they'll get a couple of calls that'll say, well, what's my adjusted sale price? And they'll say, well, I'm glad you called. Why don't we talk about that tomorrow? Yeah,
that's great. So that's a persistent lead out there when somebody's got one of those links and you can update it, tell them a new comp was in the neighborhood. That's a great opportunity to somebody.
Yeah, they're super easy for you to be able to go in and change things, and you can go and update these reports. It's no problem whatsoever. We just made it as easy as we possibly could for the agents. I mean, I was a real estate agent in the trenches, and I think that a lot of the software out there for realtors is built by developers that have never been in the trenches, and they've never had to sit at somebody's coffee table and explain to them why their house isn't going to sell for $100,000 more than it should.
Yeah, right? I mean, I ran a software company for a long time. The average first-time home buyer now is in their 30s. So, a developer who gets out of college and starts working is 20-something. Right. And those guys work for 10 years before they buy a house these days. And you're talking about the developers that I hire out of college who write the programs you're talking about. And that guy hadn't bought a house, right? He doesn't know what active means or closed or off-market seller concessions or anything.
Well, not only that, but he doesn't know what kind of a grind you have to go through to make a living in the real estate business.
Yeah. Most
people don't.
Certainly.
It's not, and it ain't as easy as it used to be. We're just trying to give you the tools that you need to be able to show your value immediately, show that you have command of the data, and be able to convert the opportunities that fall in your lap. I don't know. I've been at it for 15 years, 16 years. Anyway, long time. I don't know how many times I call it Forrest Gumping, right? I've Forrest Gumped my way into a listing appointment. I'll be talking to somebody in the grocery store. I actually have clients that have gotten listing customers in line at the grocery store. Have you heard about the crazy real estate market? No, not really. Well, what's your address? And between the checkout line and the parking lot, they've got a listing appointment for the next day, right?
Yeah.
Able to text a client something to get them started and get yourself converted into the next conversation. That's what we're trying to do.
What's more important than the value, right? So you've got something that you can just set somebody up really easily with their address and one of those links on CMAsnap. I think that makes it a really viable and compelling option that people are going to see on the dashboard. So I want our subscribers to know about CMAsnap here at the end of our time today is that it's going to be coming very soon. Tom and I are trying to get it out as fast as possible. I don't know if it's going to make it in December. December's super hard just because of, everything else going on. We have some targets in early January, but coming very, very soon, you're going to see a try CMAsnap tile on your MyDoorifyMLS.com dashboard. There's going to be a free trial for a period where you can kick the tires. And then after that, the CMAsnap product will carry a retail price that comes with a discount, a little cheaper than you can buy it online directly from Tom. We're going to offer that for a period of time. And then it's priced monthly, billed quarterly. We do quarterly right now. So we'll explain all that on the dashboard for anybody who wants to use it. This doesn't interrupt any of the other CMAs. We're not turning anything off. We're turning an option on if you found today's demo compelling, give it a try when you see the CMAsnap button come up. And Triangle Doorify now will be handling, initial calls. And if you have a question about stuff, just reach out to support like you always would. If you've got complicated questions, no one knows this stuff better than Tom. So we'll be things out to Tom.
And I'm
just going to close by saying you've already got a couple of users in the Triangle area. I know that
we do. Yeah. We've tested it thoroughly. It's been tested there for over a year. The last thing I'd like to throw in is that I do webinars really frequently, right? And so hopefully we'll be able to publish links to the webinars. And so anybody that wants to jump on and kind of see how to, get a surfing lesson, as it were, just happy to have them and really appreciate the opportunity.
We'll get those scheduled for sure. If we have them scheduled by the time we run this podcast, we'll stick them in the show notes.
Okay.
But all the subscribers watch the training tile on your dashboard, and for messages coming in the blog posts along the middle about when you can expect to see CMAsnap.
All right. There you go.
Tom, thanks for the time today, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Matt, thank you very much for having me, and we'll see you soon.